Hello everyone, and welcome back to Steel Division 2 with the monthly tournament of October, in which I played my second round versus Stardekk. And in the first game in this best of 3, I lost to a really strong rush out of Stardekk. So I had to win this game to stay alive in the tournament. And it was a really good game. But before we go in, I want to make a shout out to our new website, playsdl.com. You can find all information about upcoming and ongoing tournaments. For example, the Steel Division League Season 9, Steel Division Wano League Season 0, the upcoming this Friday night Wano tournament, and the Nebulous tournament that comes up on Saturday, where you can also find the sign up here. Information's further down below, like the stream schedule and so on. And to our new YouTube channel, the ST League Uncut, where we upload all the tournament streams that don't fit on the main channel, because by now there's really a lot of tournament content, as you can see here. So not all the streams or not all the casts fit on here on the main channel. So we have a secondary channel where you can find those. Yeah, if you want to see more Steel Division and Wano casts, check that out there, especially now with League Season 9 and Wano League Season 0. There should be a lot of content here. With that said, let's get back in here and let's have a look on the bands. As the bands were as follows. The bands were Stardekk, 97th, 2nd Infantry, Task Force 45, 20th Panzer, and DFL. All pretty standard bands. 97th, pretty good on this map with the off map. Then I banned Harteneck, 12th Ultramakers, 44th, 358, because I didn't want to play with them themselves as a first pick, but I also didn't want him to pick them against me with their really strong CQC infantry, the Kuputsachazdiki, and 17th SS, also strong CQC infantry. Stuk Force are pretty good on this map as well. So, and the IG-33s can hold down these long ranges as well, so that's why I did the bands I did there. And I ended up picking first and picking the 26 Guards Strelkovi, whilst Stardekk on the other side picked the Panzergrenadier Hermann Göring, or Fallschirmpanzer Hermann Göring. So a really interesting matchup of two relatively good divisions. I had the better CQC for the middle, thanks to Sturmoviki Rocks and normal Sturmovikis. I had some strong big tanks for the side, like the ISU with 2000 meter range. Stardekk on the other side, having some good infantry for the longer ranges with the Hermann Göring Panzer Grenadiers. Sturm Pioneers, decent. A lot of nice CQC or support vehicles like the SPW 233, 231s, and Panzer 4Gs, which are really nice for their price when it comes to damage output. Their armor obviously relatively lackluster, but they have a pretty good damage output for their price. So my idea was to win the center hard and get all 3 flags, whilst meanwhile in the north trying to hold the ground, and over here getting a foothold somewhat into the town, using my ISU from the get-go to get a push in there. Because Stardekk has cluster planes, I brought in a ZSU from the get-go to stop any kind of air trying to hunt down my ISU, and that's why I went with the ZSU there. Stardekk, on the other hand, went out on the defensive position over here, gets an ME410 in to get some recon on top of me as well, and did give up this flag, knowing that my CQC infantry was better, and rather tried to keep me away from these 2 flags though, with these light tanks, whilst investing a bit heavier into the north. Good amount of infantry, Sturm Pioneers, 4 of them, 3 Panzer Grenadiers and a leader, and then 2 support weapons with a SPW 223 and a Jagdpanzer, whilst on my side only 1 anti-tank gun was coming with a couple of Maxims and Guarded EP, so I would be really on the defensive in the north. And in the south, snipers getting out first, SPW 233 on the other side, opening up fire on top of them, trying to get them killed. ZSU getting into position, KV1 and ISU taking a bit longer. DP trying to get into some buildings over here, trying to have a foothold to maybe get more into these buildings later on. Whilst, yeah, my heavy push in the center comes in now to help out there. trying to grab as many flags as possible here, including some Arm 38 mortars, which can be really good in these forest fights as well, pinning down the enemy before your CQC infantry engages. ME410 flying on top of me, getting all the information they need, whilst on the ground, Stardekk now starts to push here. And if you lose all the buildings here, getting back into it will be quite tough. My side in general on the map maybe a bit weaker because you just have less of the buildings to barricade and fall back into. Like the enemy has a whole town here, and you also have the smaller bit of the town here, but basically you are left with nearly open ground in the south. So red side quite a bit hard to play. In the center maybe with slight advantages when it comes to line of sight, but not really that big. So both sides being a bit on a disadvantage is a bit tougher, but it is what it is. RNG is sometimes on your side, sometimes on the side of your enemy. You have to play against it. Got ADP. Moving forward, ZSU coming in to allow KV-1 and other tanks to come in as well next to it and don't get shut down. Trying to hold the line over here. Maxime's coming in, ZSU trying to push back the Storm Pioneers over here. But the Gaius and Maxime's keep them pinned down. Support vehicles though, doing a good amount of damage here. One Guard ADP already did fall. Whilst the Guard ADP over here now tries to reinforce all of this. M42 trying to get in the spot so that the 233s can't push too far forward on their own. KV-1E slowly rolling in. Issues with KVs that are really kind of slow, kind of sluggish. Whilst I try to get a bit of ground down here. PTRS trying to sneak by a bit as well. To maybe get back here, snipe some transports. Obviously PTRS not as great as they had been before. Not massacring all the units in the transport, but still, for 10 points can be absolutely worthwhile to snipe 1 or 2 transports there in the rear, killing half of them, forcing them to a long, slow march north. Whilst the Jagdpanzer here is moving forward, and I don't have many units that can deal with the Jagdpanzer. KV-1E for sure can't. KV-85s in B phase and onward maybe can, but the S3 and the KV-1E here are a bit over their head here in this engagement. Guardia DP, M42 here really trying to hold the line, and Stardekk continues to push, whilst I try to move in deeper into the center. But Stardekk's M14s here are in really nice spots, and I don't have any anti-tank with this push. Should have maybe moved an M42 through with these units, but I kept it back here. So the M14 helping to hold the line against me pretty well over there. Whilst I got a second ISU out to try to keep everything here pinned down. ISU on the way into the middle. KV-1E now engaging over here, but has to be careful as the Jagdpanzer is all around there. So has to be really, really careful. Can't really take that engagement. As the Jagdpanzer now comes up. He is aiming down. KV-1 trying to get out of there. And will dodge the shot for now. Whilst a lot of the infantry has been bullied by the 233s. 233s now trying to bully the M42 here as well. MG42 coming in for it as well. So, quite problematic there. The Jagdpanzer moving in, pushing deeper and deeper. And at the meantime, the cheap investment into 45 points here for Stardekk really cutting down my investment of a lot more here in the center. That tried to get the push through here. And a really strong move from Stardekk here. Cutting me off from moving over the open here. Forcing me to stay in this forest. And not allowing me to push any further pressure onto him. Whilst in the north, I'm not quite sure how, but even with this line of sight, somehow the ZSU got sniped there. And the KV-1E getting killed at the same time. And that leads me in a terrible spot in the north right now. Like, yeah, really, really bad spot. ISU gets a shot onto the Jagdpanzer, but sadly doesn't hit. And now the Ju-87 G2 can come along as I lack the AA with ZSU falling to protect it. Yeah, the G2 is the reason why the ZSU is down in the south. Yeah, G2 coming in here. Will try to hunt Yak 9 on the way though. Trying to protect my tanks. And luckily the IS-1 has good enough frontal armor to dodge this for a while, but I needed to invest into 2 Yak-9s to be able to save my tanks, which is a big investment here. That's 180 points of investment into nothing substantial, basically. Like, these won't help me holding the ground, so not an investment I wanted to make. Losing the ZSU really did hurt here, and my position here in the north was faltering, but I was not able to push any deeper in the center. And in the south, I didn't quite get in deeper as well. The defensive position that Stardekk did build up here at the beginning was a good investment, was good enough to hold me back, as my focus was in the center when it came to major investments in this one. And as I said, his 3 M14s really holding me back well there. So Yak-9s now coming in to try to do at least some damage here, trying to pin down the Panzer Grenadier, but my units here getting pushed out, and then you're back to this, where you really have no staging ground whatsoever to cross this open terrain. The map really tough when you're on the red side, and Stardekk doing a good job of using that, whilst I misplayed the north so far here pretty hard, and needed to find an answer here. But luckily, I had 2000 meter range with the ISU, 2000 meter range HE and AT, and Stardekk didn't have that on the battlefield. ISU-1 also pretty capable, can deal with the Jagdpanzer as well. I just needed more for it to support it, as A-Phase moved on. ISU over here got penetrated once, needed to be careful, as the Panzer 2G, 4G down here in the south was well microed by Stardekk. Stardekk really good with these line of sight micros. One of his big strengths. Well, L237 tried to come around here, get killed onto it. PTRS trying to provide the line of sight, but the Panzer 4G was able to just break line of sight there last second, which was really annoying, as this didn't allow my L2 to get a kill in here, and a flak feeling was just coming up in the rear, and that meant this Panzer 4G could always come up from the side, and there is just no way to approach it really if the enemy micros it, and Stardekk is good enough to micro it. So yeah, I was basically stuck back here now in the south, so I needed to win the center and I needed to come back in the north, as the south was basically lost at this point. Yeah, no real chance of covering this open field ever again, as it's really tough to deal with the enemy in here and in around these buildings as well, but you only have open field to deal with. As unlike in Wano, you don't have tank smoke, so yeah, maybe with a good amount of smoke mortars you can do something, but it is really tough to get anything done. Meanwhile, ARM-38's over here trying to kill one of the M14s, as if they can get enough shots on, they can do some kills there maybe. But as I was focused to micro elsewhere, I wasn't able to do this enough to get them really killed down here. So big issue there, as the really small investment here of Stardekk kept me pinned down all game through. And the Panzer 4G here was coming up to pin down my channels further. I just tried to keep hold of these buildings now, as otherwise Stardekk would be on a really good point advantage again. Tried to come around here to kill the Panzer 4G from the side. That's an SPW 231. Came around here in the south, hunting for whatever spotted the Panzer 4G. I'm not sure if he knew about this PTRS, he just knew something had to be here, because I was able to see the Panzer 4G earlier. Whilst, yeah, the center not really changing at all so far. And now, Stardekk brought in one of the unicorn units of this division of his. Brought in the Calgarate 600mm off map. Only one shot, but the 600mm since the buff lately is really deadly. ARM-38's not hitting. I spotted the plane, so I tried to predict where that shot would go and tried to spread out as good as possible so that my units wouldn't get hit too hard. Stormviki's sadly not moving. A lot of other units tried to scramble there. Well, it's the IS-1 and the ISU tried to get something in, but with the buildings here and also same situation as in the south, a lot of open field in front of me, where I can't really do much about the micro. I was pretty stuck. Meanwhile, Jagdpanzer here, trying to kill my ISU. ISU lost line of sight there for a second, but after it opened fire, it saw it again, and it got the kill. So ISU really, really strong here. The next Jagdpanzer considered trying to engage, but decided against it. And yeah, 16-8, really not great. Something had to be done here. ISU trying to get the kill. I, with the Su-85, finally got the kill here on the Panzer 3G. So that at least worked out. Panzer 4G moving forward here. The KV-85 trying to come in, trying to win the long-range fights. As at the moment, there's no long range here for Stardekk, so that's the only way that how you can win these open fields. And one of the reasons why I took 26, because with the ISU, KV-85s, and IS-1, you have some bigger tanks with some long range capabilities, but still having good enough infantry for the center to win that. But you don't want to be forced into these fights. Not against a player with the micro of Stardekk. It's just not a good situation to be in. Stardekk now has the resources also to take my couple of units in the north out. And the IS-1 trying to hold the line here, together with the ISU. Okay, Guardia DP getting hit by a Gorilla. Good 2000 meter range HE, and now Storm Tiger enter the battlefield. And these deal a lot of HE damage, enough HE damage to overwhelm other units as well. Second time the 600mm comes in. Yak 9's not fast enough to scramble to get that killed. I tried to dodge again. First one did not that much damage, but enough that I have to reposition my units here. KV-1 at least gets rid of another one of these M14s, but more of them coming in still kept me boxed in, and the 600mm off map obviously also pretty brutal. And I don't have quite the infantry. I don't have any bazooka or Panzerschreck infantry in the stack to easily take out these M14s on medium range. Moving it up an M42 would have really been the choice to make, but even those against two MGs and a HE shell on short range might lose out, so not an easy way. Now I tried with a KV-1, but as my infantry support around it falters, the KV-1 will have a rough time spotting these M14s and overwhelming them. Maybe should have done that earlier, but obviously the pressure on the flanks forced me to do a lot of investment there. Whilst channels try to come in into the center. Su-85 holding the line in the south. KV-85 moving forward as well. ISU sitting over here. And yeah, PTRS chilling in the south. Stromoviki coming in for the center. What's another 600mm off map comes in as well. Gorilla holding the line in the north, getting some good shots out. Guardia DP under fire, gets killed off. What's another ISU rolls onto the battlefield, trying to help out. Two ISUs for the long ranges, but now a Storm Tiger comes in, and the Storm Tiger can't be penetrated by the IS-1 or the ISUs really on long range. So that is a major problem, as by now the AA situation here for Stardekk is pretty strong with 3-star veterancy. Yak 9B now comes along, kills the 600mm, but doesn't really matter. It already did its damage. My infantry in the center heavily decimated, and yet getting anything done here without cover against cover is just really tough. I don't have the artillery to use to really decimate it, so my ISUs and my IS-1s are kind of my only option. Gorilla in the north gets missed by the ISU. Kind of unfortunate. I'm down to the 9:15, so the timer is really on. Something needs to be done. Trying to get the side shot here on this Storm Tiger, but loses line of sight there last second after one penetration. So yeah, trying to overwhelm that Storm Tiger from multiple sides. Nearly worked out, but didn't quite in the end. And that is problematic, as the Storm Tiger will continuously lob heavy shells in my direction that over time will whittle down the HE points of my tanks and will crack them, so I have to take them out some way or another. SPW 231 dying in the north. ISU holding the line, trying to get a defensive shot in here. The Panzer Grenadiers going down. And at least a couple of good kills here on the outskirts. The town overall not super heavily defended, but it's just so hard to get infantry through the open here against MG42s and all these support weapons. Well, I don't have any way to move them forward. Like, really the only way, and maybe the best way to move infantry here would have been way better smoke play, but I didn't provide that at the time. Yeah, still one of my weaknesses for sure. Too little smoke play in my gameplay in general. One thing that I have to improve upon. Meanwhile, in the south, we wiped out a couple of good defenses lines, the units, but the Sturmtiger still around. And my ISU heavily damaged without AP shells. Needed to be careful. Panzer 4G coming around to flank my SU-85, and the SU-85 has a rate of fire issue. Only 6 rate of fire versus the 7 of the Panzer 4G plus veterancy difference, so the Panzer 4G will get 2 shots versus only 1 shot of the SU-85. At the beginning, like it will get the 2nd shot first for sure, and that with these low armor vehicles will mean that the Panzer 4G most likely will win that duel. And the Tiger now comes up as well, and that one can deal with all my tanks as well. Tiger and Sturmtiger really outclassing my tanks by a solid bit, so having an issue there. KV-85 in the north went down. IS-1 in the north went down to the Sturmtiger. ISU desperately trying to get the kill there, but just not quite able to do so. And no recon over here. Well, Stardekk now also tried to retake the center. 11-13, so we're getting some points back. Got some couple of kills down here. SU-85 at least got spotted by my PTRS. PTRS position here really nice. Getting first shot there. Loader killed. Really good crit. So yeah, putting my SU-85 here into the cover was a really great move. Not able to finish the job though, which is shameful. And now AT guns coming in for Stardekk here for the forest. And as I said, one of the issues I have is that I don't have great artillery. Yeah, as mortar play might have been a good idea. KV-81 could have come around earlier here as well. Whilst Panzerschreck tries to go for my KV-1E, but I get the kill there at least. Still got the flag of Stardekk over here, but didn't get any more ground, which is a bit of a problem. Whilst the ISU tries to penetrate the Sturmtiger in the north. KV-85 moving around. Sturmtiger getting another shot off. ISU 152 takes heavy damage. At least the Sturmtiger can't take too many shots as it has a long reload time. So is now pushed back. KV-85 can do a bit more in that time. And I maybe should push harder than I do at this stage over here. In general, what I should have done differently before at the start of the game, lesson learned is I knew I could win the center with my infantry, and I knew I would struggle on the sides. So what I should have done is not focusing the center as I did, but rather focusing the sides first, trying to get a good stronghold there, and then even if he pushes me in the center, I can easily push him back there because I have the better CQC infantry, I have the armed 38s and so on. Come back here later, once I have secured either a good bridgehead into the enemy here or have a good position over here. Instead, I focused on the center. Stardekk made a great play of how to keep me back in here. And now I have to struggle so hard to get back from a really big disadvantage on the side. As I said, the map is favored into Stardekk's direction, but I also just misplayed it in that regard. And that led to another really terrible early game in which Stardekk is just really strong. Yeah, giving Stardekk any early game advantage will lead to you being in a big disadvantage. He's really a good player when it comes to the early game, so you have to, I have to improve my game there if I want to compete with him, because in the late game, as you see right now, I'm not trading terribly, and in game number 1, I also traded better than he did, but I just messed up the early game really badly, and he is doing the setup and the planning there really well. The M41 14 play was really strong. The setup of the push in the north with the Storm Pioneers for smoke and the Jagdpanzer as a pretty unkillable tank and so on was a good move as well. South was just good enough. And Yep, my game plan at the beginning just not as good as his, and then my ISU's doing really well here, but the Sturm Tiger and the Tiger E just a bit too tough to beat here. KV-85 fighting the Panzer IV Gs here in the south. ISU now going down to another Sturm Tiger shot. KV-85 really trying to kill the Panzer IVs. SU-85 went down to the Pak-38. ISU finally getting the kill onto the Panzer IV. So, yeah, still getting some nice kills. Andriusha finally coming in. That's my try to kill the Sturm Tiger. That's the one artillery piece that I got in B-phase that maybe can do the job, but it obviously can be dodged. Tiger E gets hit hard. And if I would have anything that could penetrate the Sturm Tiger, I could just now push forward, but I just don't have that. So, also a good counter pick in that regard with the Sturm Tiger against my KV-85s and ISUs. Using the second pick pretty well there. I would say, in general, 26 still a really strong pick. A division that absolutely has the tools to win games. ISU now retreated from the Tiger E. Whilst the CIS 3-gun trying to get the kill there. With some side shots, trying to get the bait. 13-11. ISU now moving forward to get the shot off. Tiger gets the shot off first. Both sides bounce. CIS 3 not quite capable of getting the kill there. And ISU in the south has died by now as well. KV-85 has died, so I won't get into this town. I won't be able to overwhelm my opponent there. And this is really the swan song of this game. Yes, I'm pretty stuck everywhere. Sturm Tiger takes out my last ISU in the north as well, and I'm out of ISUs, say, for this one, and a single ISU won't change the outcome of this game. My infantry can't shine where it wants to shine. My Stardekk and Sturmoviki don't quite get into the positions they want to be in. And with that, and my IL-237s can't get in against the AA. Maybe that should have been the focus of my artillery strike. Maybe the Andriusha should have tried to focus down the IL-238s, then the Flak 38s and the IL-237 could have come in earlier. But this way, it doesn't work. And with that, the game is fizzling out here. Yeah, learned quite a bit about Stardekk in these games, but yeah, a tough opponent to beat for me. My early game, really my greatest weakness at the moment, and in the end, Stardekk moves on, eliminates me in the monthly tournament. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that ride with me once more in another monthly tournament. We might be back in the future for another one in between league seasons. But now, obviously, a lot of busy stuff going on with 1.0 and Steel Division League. So a lot of good content coming your ways. Already the first games recorded should be out tomorrow about Steel Division League. So yeah, be back then. And if you don't want to miss it, consider subscribing. And if you want to see all of it, consider subscribing to the secondary channel. And with that said, bye-bye and have a great day. See you next time.